Welcome to the Elokus podcast. This is class number 3 in the discourse, Kol Machlokes 5672, which is the sixth discourse in the great book B'Shosh Ekdimu, 5672. We are holding in the middle of chapter 21, and it was a little bit of getting challenging and complicated. It caused us to give the longest class last time, which was 40 minutes, longer than I usually anticipate for half an hour. But I think I've a little bit in my head cracked it a little open. So hopefully it'll go smoother today and we'll be able to break through on the idea that he's trying to explain us right now. The main idea that he is now trying to reconcile is how do we have both, on the one hand, 10 hidden spheres in the Orin Sof that's before the Tzimtzum. On the one hand, we say there are 10 hidden spheres, and according to the Arizal, unlike the Ramak, those 10 hidden spheres are related to the light, not to the vessels. And at the same time, we say that they are pshutim. The light is pashut. It's simple. How can it both be pashut and be 10 spheres? That was the question. So I think the main punchline of the beginning of the answer that we discussed yesterday, in the last class, is that it wasn't completely yet understood, but at least the beginning, the main fundamental idea is this light is the beginning of Gavul. We have to differentiate it between this and the other element of Gavul that's in the Orein Sof, and that is the root of the Kalim. There's the source of the Kalim, and there's the source of the light. Again, we are following the Shita of the Arizal, the opinion of the Ari, not the Ramak. According to the Ramak, the whole 10 sphirot that are hidden is nothing to do with the lights. The lights are completely pashut and completely simple, and the lights are utterly infinite, and there's no spheres in the lights. The spheres are only in the Kalim. And even later, when the lights go into vessels, it always appears like the lights have coloring or definitions, but the light never really has any differentiation, one light from the other. It's the same light going through all the spheres. It's just that the vessels are different. That's the Ramak's Shita. The Arizal says that there is a differentiation in the lights itself. The Oyer HaChesed is different than the Oyer HaGvura. And that's why we discussed earlier the concept of a chlifu dichtayu, where the light of chesed can go into gevura and the light of gevura can go into chesed, implying that there is already some tzior, some element, some definition already in the light. And we are learning now that that applies even to the Orein Sof that's before the Tzimtzum, when the lights are still inside Atzmos, which means the lights are still inside God Himself. There is already a concept of 10 spheres. And we say that they are pashut. How can they both be pashut and be 10? That's the question. So we were learning. So the idea that we're learning now is as follows: the koyach hagvul, that's the sort of self-restraint, has koyach of limitation. That inyan, when that reveals itself, its identity is what it's about. It's about to make gavul. Yeah, of course, God is perfect, so therefore He has that power too. But when that power comes out, that power doesn't claim that it is expressing Hashem, and therefore it doesn't come as a direct projection. It comes in a manner of separation. It's the whole idea of the koach hagvul, is that it's a koach nivdal. It's a power from its source. It's the opposite. We have to figure out all kinds of ways that it can appear unattached to the source. Like we spoke about throwing something, the power leaves the person. It's not attached. That's the idea of the koach hagvul, and that becomes the whole series of vessels. Vessels are not meant to be a display of God. Vessels are meant to be something, or to be the beginning of somethingness, of a creation, of a world, and so on and so forth. Since over here we're dealing with lights, the inyan, this is the main point I think we have to take out from last class, is that the inyan, which means the identity, the essence, the objective of lights, is to express essence, to express its source. And since it's here to express its source, it's an ispashtus of the source, which means a revelation of the source, an expansion of the source, it must be like the source. It is davuk. The or is davuk b'mor. Light is cleaving and connected to its source, and therefore it's conveying its source, and it must be source-like. And since God Himself, the Or Ein Sof, is by definition of being Ein Sof, or by undefinition of being Ein Sof, doesn't have any tzior, doesn't have any form and any definition. So in other words, in the words of the philosophers, he's pashut, he's simple. Simple meaning prior to any tzior, like a simple blackboard before it gets anything written on it, a clean white paper before there's any design in it, a clean sky without any cloud or any shape to it. It's just the simplicity of the Or Ein Sof, and therefore the simplicity of the Ein Sof, not the Or Ein Sof thing. So the Or Ein Sof, which is a revelation of Ein Sof, since it comes to reveal the Ein Sof, its first notion about it is that it has to be pashut. If it's not pashut, which means if it's not simple, if it's not undesigned, then it's not davuk b'ma'ar, then it's not light. The first primary quality that light needs is that it should be a reflection of source. So it has to be like source, and source is pashut, so it too is pashut. And that has to be the fundamental. That's what we start with. That's the platform. That's the basis over here. Now, if we're going to say that there is anything else to the light, because we are going to mention there are 10 spheroids and there's already something other to the light, we have to realize that that's not touching the mahus of the light. If anything, it's an add-on. Okay? We have to realize that that's a secondary thing. The essence of it is pashut. The essence, the mahus of the light, the substance of the light is pashut. And that's going to have to remain no matter how far you go with the light. We're soon going to see that even when the lights go down into the spheroids, they still, in essence, remain pashut, because light is connected. So the lights that go in Atzilus are connected to the light of the Kav, and the light of the Kav is connected to the light to the Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum. There's always a connection. If it's a disconnect, it's not light. Light is always connected. That's why when we say there was a Tzimtzum, and then Hashem reintroduces light, it says Chayzer Veheyer. He reintroduces. What does he reintroduce? The light that's before the Tzimtzum is now baka. It's now breaking through the Chayshach HaTzimtzum, the darkness of the Tzimtzum. But it's still a beam. A beam is connected to the source. No matter how far you go, it's always reflecting source. And the ultimate source is God. So lights, the divine lights that we are talking about, are always inherently going to have to be pashut. Okay, so what did we do? We didn't really answer anything. We just set the base of stating that light must be pashut, and we differentiated it from the koyach hagvul, which is a source of kelim, where over there we don't have that rule. Here we do have that rule. But now we still have to go back to the question, so how do we have 10? If it's pashut, how do we have 10? So for that, we have to get a little creative over here. We have to do a little mental gymnastics over here. So this is what we're going to do over here. So this is the way it works. Number one, he says, the first element is the moment light is light, it does already change from source. What changes is light must always come out in a manner of sphera, which means it must have some content, or else it's not revelation. By the mere fact that it's revealing, see, the essence just is, doesn't have to have any quality. But when you're revealing something, what's it revealing? You're revealing, tell me about you. Or tell me about you, you have to say something already. If the real I, when I say I, is I. It's me. If I'm to myself, I, then I don't need, there's nothing about me. I just I. But if I'm saying I am, I'm revealing, I'm coming in, I have to give a name. I have to say something, or else I. What do you mean I? I is nothing in terms of revelation. Revelation always has to say something. That's why every revelation, he says earlier, must come in a manner of sphera. However, so spheroids begin not in atzmos, not in the essence. Spheroids begin in the oir that's coming from atzmos. As soon as there's oir ein sof, it's already with spheroids. So I was struggling with this because he doesn't say this openly. He does mention the concept, but he doesn't say this nakuda, this point. So I'm going to take the liberty of explaining it this way, and I hope I'm not wrong. And that is, for example, but what did we say again? But this sphera that's going to come out is going to be an infinite sphera, which in his words means, he said, sphera is ein kates, not an infinite sphera. It's an or habeligvul. It's the initial revelation of the or ein sof is, as he explains, is he's not even revealing to anybody. He's revealing just to be revealed. He's expressing. But again, every revelation, every expression has to have some content. And he calls it, in this stage, spheres ein kates. Then he says, there is a number 2 stage to that. And that is, when the light is not just revintion of revealing to something, to the world, then it has to narrow up a little bit. Then the oir habligvul has to take on more, it has to have some curve to it. It can't be spherois ein kates. It has to have some limit to it, which in this case it's 10 spheres. But hold it. Isn't that already meaning that the light is not pasha? It's like you're playing with an impossibility. You're unpashating the light. So let's try to explain that in a way that will make a little sense. So let's first begin with so spheres ein kates means, hold it, if there's many spheres, even in that stage, if there's spheres ein kates, how do you say that? Then for example, if you say it can be blue, yellow, green, purple, an infinite amount of colors. Okay, we're picking the seven colors we know, whatever, but infinite amount of. Let's talk just one range. Let's say this line, right? But infinite amount of colors. Really is being said. The stage is when God is expressing himself, coming to revelation, he's basically saying, you know what I am? I am a kol yachol. I'm capable of anything. Kol yachol means omnipotent, anything. Now, anything really means infinite possibilities. Now, before he's expressing, you can't say that the essence of God, in his essence, is that he's a kol yachol. I'm sorry we got blocked out for a minute. I saw the thing went out. So when you were saying something about yourself, then it's kol yachol. But let's think for a moment. Omnipotence, kol yachol. When you say kol yachol, I'm capable of everything. Which, let's say in colors, would mean every color. And let's say it means infinite colors. Does that mean that there actually is colors? There is yellow, pink, green, and blue there? No, it could be anything. It's the capability that he could shine any color. So that's the idea of spheres. The potential contains within it spheres. The spheres is the revelation of brown or yellow or black or white or pink or purple or silver or gold or whatever the colors are. But there aren't colors there. That's why we say each sphera, all these infinite possibilities, are utterly pashut. The spheres themselves are in a state of absolute pshitas. Because there is nothing there. There's nothing there. But since it's light, it has already spheres. The spheres are the infinite spheres, the infinite possibilities of colors. So that would be stage number 1. Stage number two is if, and we're saying this is not just if, hypothetically, but since before the Tzimtzum, God, when he's revealing himself, is revealing his power with the intention to create worlds and to manifest this energy, his power to actually produce a world and interact with the world. And worlds are finite. So that infinite capability, that kol yachol, the worlds can't accept infinite. Because if infinite power would reveal itself in the worlds, then the world would cease to be finite. Since Hashem is thinking of a recipient that's finite, then his energy has to bend and narrow itself down. Okay, you say you're kol yachol, you can make so many colors. How many colors? It has to be within a certain context. Give me 1,000,000 colors. Give me 1,000,000,000 colors, fine. And in essence, it's 10 colors. From the 10, you can make a zillion different colors. You can blend them and mix them, but it's 10. So now let's think about it in a second. In essence, because think about it. When we say, for example, that God is omnipotent, and as we're discussing over here, and we say he can be any color. In our mind, we have a limitation of colors. How many colors? We're thinking a lot of colors, but we're finite. So we can't remove we can't remove the finitude from our mind. It is always there, no matter how much we will try to remove it, it's there. So because we can only handle the finite, so we can only handle limitation. So what's really happening is that it's almost like within the kol yachol, the revelation of the kol yachol of the omnipotent being, of the initial light that's really Ein Sof, when it's now considering revealing itself to the world, what it really means is that it reveals only a percentage, if you might say, only a sliver of its kol yacholness. Which means within a certain parameter, there is going to be all these possibilities. So, and in the case we're saying, since Hashem wanted to build a world of 10, so it's 10 spheres. So now for a moment, these 10 spheres, let's say these 10 spheres are the 10 colors. I don't know which 10 colors, pick 10 colors. I don't know, there are 7 essential colors. No, I'm not sure this the core colors. Let's say 7 colors, fine. So those 7 colors, are the colors really there already now in the kol yachol? No. Just like when we said before, that when the omnipotent can make infinite colors, does that mean that the colors are there? No, it's just the power that can be anything. In the same way, when we say now that it's going to be 10 powers, it's still just a power. And in a sense, it's the same omnipotent power, but because he's thinking of a recipient, he's allowing the recipient only to see a narrow element of his omnipotency. So then you might argue and say, comes out that the light is really completely pashut. It's the same infinite light. It doesn't have any definition. It's really pashut. So what really does it mean 10 spheres? Then there's no spheres at all, and the lights are pashut. And you're right, and that's exactly what it means, or what I think at least it means. But then what are the 10 spheres? So the 10 spheres is that it's being designated to produce 7 colors and not more. The fact that it's being designated to produce and this in the kol yachol, we are seeing now 7 potentials for colors. So that designates the light to have to 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 these seven spheroids and not more. Once you designate the light to these seven spheroids, it's as if there is already a distinction between one and the other due to the designation, but not inherent, but due to the designation. I'm going to use a mashal over here, my own mashal. I don't know if it's true. I hope it's true. But something like this can perhaps give us an inkling on. If I held out a white sheet of paper to you, a plain white piece of paper, think about it, a copy of paper and a copier, plain white piece of sheet of paper. And I say, look over here. In a white piece of paper, you can draw, well, let's say even better, you can cut out shapes with a little knife, you can cut out a circle, you can cut out a triangle, you can cut out a square, you can cut out a rectangle, you can cut out an octagon, you can cut out any shape. You can cut out an A, a B, a C, a D, an Aleph, a Gimel, every shape of the world you want to cut out, you can cut out from that paper. Okay. Are those shapes and forms really there in the paper right now before I cut out anything? No, it's a plain piece of paper. The paper is pashut. In a sense, this paper could be any shape, meaning I can cut out, I don't know how many different shapes. But what happens if I designate it? And I said, and I show you, and I say, see this corner of the page? This, over here we're going to put an A. Over here we're going to put a B. Over here we're going to put a Z. Essentially, I designated it already. Now, does that really mean that the A has become an A? Or the B has become a B? No, because if I changed my mind, hypothetically, and decided that in the place of the A, let's do the opposite. Let's start with Z on the top and put A on the bottom. I can do that because the A never really became an A and the Z never became a Z. I didn't do anything to the paper. I just designated. But how about if I promised, and I'm going to keep my word, I say, I made a shvua, an oath, that the A, so it's not going to change. The A is for sure, this part of the page, the right upper corner of the page is going to be cut out to be an A. Is the page still pashut? The answer is yes, because there's no A there, there's no B. It's all the same piece of paper from A to Z. It's exactly the same. All the shapes are all the same. However, since I designated it to be this and this and that, because of the intention, which is more external to it, then it's locked. It's already locked to emanate, that the potential of this paper is now going to be dafka an A and dafka a C and dafka a Z. But that's not so much in it, but because of the designation. So I think that's the idea that he's saying over here. The Or is always a reflection of the source. Since it's a reflection of the source, it's pashut. The whole idea that there's even spheroids to it is mitzad the source. It shouldn't even have sphera. It shouldn't even have any. It just is. But since it's revelation has to have some content. So you have to give it a content. What's the content? The content is that you can make different shapes of it. Think about it, the paper. In essence, the paper is not that you can make shapes in it. Paper is paper. But if the paper wants to reveal itself to be something more than a paper, to reveal it, what can I do with the paper? I can make shapes. I'm talking about the quality of the paper. This paper, I can draw all kinds of drawings of it. So that's already when the paper is coming into revelation. It's coming into revelation, it's called Yachol. That's the Oyer HaBligvul. Then it's anything. But how about if I'm intending to put the ABC? You realize when I put out the paper, now when the paper wants to show off, what will the paper say? You know what I can do? You can write any shape on me. But that can be in Chinese, in Polish. You can write Spanish. You can write in French. You can use different types. You can write Hebrew letters. You can write every type of letters. The letters that the Native Americans used, whatever they were. glyphery, whatever they call them. Any type of letter can be. That would be a sign of bli gvul. How about if I said, no, this is going to be for an English audience? So now I've designated it to be the ABC. So I said, this paper is going to be for an English audience. Is it really ABC there? No. But by the form of designation, it's already designated for that. That already means that it's there in a hidden state. At the same time, when it's not there, it's there and it's not there. That kind of is where he's going with this, as I understand it. All right? So let's read it inside so we get some actual learning. So let's read it again. He says, remember, he says the oir is Shem Havaya. Havaya is, it's not like the other names, which are Kalim. Havaya is in a state of yichud and unity, v'dveikus, and a state of attachment. It's in a state of simplicity. The adveikus b'makor, because the connection to the source, machayev, obligate, shehi kamoy hamakor, it should be like the source. The imkain, and if so, es sfiris hagnuzos, sheheim b'pchenes yichud v'dveikus ba'orein soif, the 10 hidden spheres, that they are in a state of yichud and attachment in the orein soif. Harei tzarech liyos b'pchenes pshitos, they must be in a state of pashat. Rak, only. B'pnei shehem b'pchenas giloy, because they are in a state of revelation. Hainu, sheklala sa'oiru b'pchenas giloy ba'atzmusa. The general idea of light means that it's a revelation. It's still a revelation inside of him, but it's a revelation. The whole giloy, and every revelation be'hachrach sheyiyah by spheros, and every revelation has to have spheros. The yesh beis oifanim b'hagiloy, and there's two levels. There's two oifanim in this revelation. There's two stages, if you might say, in this revelation. V'hakol b'atzmusa, it's all still taking place inside of him. Stage number 1, shagilu b'pchenas bli gvul, that the revelation is in a level of bli gvul. Shegam begilu zeh yesh spheros, because even in this revelation there is spheros. As we said earlier, the fact that he's a kol yachol, he can write any type of a letter he wants, any endless possibilities. Rakshem b'pchenas spheros ain't kates. They are in a state of spheros without an end. That's stage number 1. Oy shagilu hu leheir b'gvul. Or the revelation is to already illuminate to a limited entity, to illuminate to the world. Bigvul to shebegilu zeh. Once that happens, it gets bent to a certain. In other words, then you decided of an audience. Which language does the audience speak? English. I can't leave it anymore with the hypothetical infinite amount of letters, because you don't know Chinese. You don't know other letters. You know English, so I better put it with the English alphabet. So that already limits it. Then the giloy, the spheroids are in 10. Ukanel Perek Yud Zayin, like we say in chapter 17. But since they're still in a state of devekos to the oirin soif, and the spheroids of them is because it needs to reveal itself. Al karchacha esas spheroids, so we have to say that these very 10 spheroids, hem gam came b'pchenes pshitas, are still in a state of pashut. Hagam, and now he says in the parentheses, hagam shehem b'pchenas esas spheroids, even though they are 10 spheroids. Ein zerak mitzad hagiloy levad. It's not because of its essence, it's a reflection of the source. It's because it needs to reveal itself. The zesha hagiloy machayev shehiyah spheroids, harei zebchenes. No, now he's asking a question. We just said that it has that because it's Giloy, that's what forces it to be 10 spheroids. But hold it. The fact that it's Giloy needs spheroids, but not spheroids 10. So now he's explaining, that's because you want it to be a Gili to somebody. The Kvarnis Barla El Perek Anel de Spheris Ein Kates. We said already earlier that when we're dealing with infinite spheres, Vaspheris Gufa Hambe Pchenes is not only because of the revelation okay, if I will continue further, we're going to go too long, so I'll stop over here. But you get the idea. And Bez Hashem, in the next class, we are going to solidify this. But I think we've broken through today. Bez Hashem, and Hashem should forgive me if I made any mistakes over here. But this is what I'm thinking is the way I understand what he is saying over here. And we'll see it. You'll see it more in the words, Bez Hashem, in the next few lines that we will that we will learn. Meanwhile, let Mashiach be here.